There are many people who find it entertaining and exciting to be scared or frightened, especially if we know there's no harm in it. Whether your poison is watching scary movies or playing scary video games, there's nothing wrong with a good old spooky story that has been shared around by word of mouth. And with the technology that we have nowadays, we have even more ways of finding stories from people from around the world. But there are some stories known as creepypastas that are heavily shared around and have gathered a cult following over the years, mainly for their shocking content. And with Halloween right around the corner, I thought it'd be a better time than any to share this video with you boys and girls. So here is a list of some of my favourite creepypasta stories based on another passion of mine, video games. If I left any out, feel free to leave them in the comments section below, and without further ado, let's begin. Microsoft had an interesting surprise for those willing to do a little digging around with their Microsoft Office applications such as Word and PowerPoint. There is a game that could be unlocked within Microsoft Excel 95. To find this game, you must open Microsoft Excel 95 with a blank worksheet. Then, go down to the 95th row and select the whole row. Tab over to the B column and then tap and hold Ctrl-Alt-Shift, then click the Tech Support button. After doing so, a window will appear named Hall of Tortured Souls. While it's not a horror game by any means, it's a game that essentially shows you the credits for the team that created and worked on Excel 95. Must have something to do with its out-of-place name that gave it its reputation it has today. The Pokemon series is well known by children and adults alike, with its appealing gameplay and fun collectible creatures. The series has stood the test of time for being released on the Nintendo Game Boy in the early to mid-90s and is still being released nowadays. But there was a story stirring around with a mysterious encounter with the in-game location, Pokemon Tower. Instead of a Marowak being the boss you fight at the top floor, it was instead a strange and downright out-of-place figure, known as the Berry Man, or Buried Alive as it's come to be known recently over the years. Once you reach the top floor, the following conversation takes place. Shortly after, a battle commences between the player and Buried Alive, and there would be one of two outcomes. If the player won, the game would freeze, but if the player lost the battle, Buried Alive would state the following message. The player would receive an ending that shows Buried Alive had captured the player and dragged him down into the ground while devouring him or her. If you were playing this late at night and you witnessed this, you'd probably never want to play a Pokemon game ever again. Most people may know of the popular television program My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, or have at least heard or seen the name somewhere on the internet before. Personally, I don't follow the My Little Pony fandom, but I do have young nieces that adore the show, and I guess that's why I find this particular entry creepier than I should. On the fan website for the show, Equestria Daily, a game was posted on April the 3rd, 2011. A small number of fans downloaded it, only to be shocked of what they had found. At first, it seems like a simple little platforming game where you play as one of the TV show's characters, named Luna. But after some time playing, the screen cuts to one of two disturbing images of other characters from the show. You'll either see a haunting picture of Pinkie Pie with bleeding eyes, or a demented-looking Apple Bloom. At this point of the game, it cannot be closed with the escape key or with Alt 4. The mouse will stay stuck in the lower right side of the screen and the window can't be minimised. The only way to close the program is with Task Manager with your keyboard or to wait for it to close on its own. After that scarring ordeal, players would go back to where the game's save file is, only to find a multitude of the pictures that they saw at the ending of the game, along with a text file simply saying, "The end is nay." After the controversy the game stirred up on the website, games that needed to be downloaded were banned from the website entirely. The Super Mario World title for the SNES holds a place in a lot of people's memories and childhood, including my own. The SNES title was a masterpiece and people still play it to this day with speedruns. But one player found something that he was or wasn't meant to find. The story tells of a potential secret ending hiding within the game. Here is a portion of the beginning of the story. Quote, "This isn't one of those haunted game stories. At no point are you going to hear me claim something within the game spoke to me, reacted to my words, or forced me to punch myself repeatedly in the face. No, this isn't about a haunted game or a game doing something impossible or even something it shouldn't have. This isn't about a glitch or a hidden satanic message, and at no time did I phone Nintendo headquarters only to have my questions answered with hushed whispers or anguished screams. This story is about a game feature I don't think anyone else has unlocked. That's it. No ghosts, no conspiracies, just a secret we were all supposed to find but never did. Something that changes the entire generations of childhoods and the very essence of a multi-million-dollar franchise. This is what I assumed to be a previously undiscovered alternate ending to Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo." End quote. I won't go too much into the story here, for I wish to cover it in its entirety sometime in the future. With all the photographic proof that accompanies the story and the ending revelation, it deserves a video of its own. A lot of video games have characters that have other characters based off of them. In the way of Mario and Luigi have Wario and Waluigi, Sonic the Hedgehog has a similar character like this with the evil Metal Sonic, a robotic copy of the Blue Hedgehog that aids the evil Dr. Eggman in his quest for world domination. But Sonic isn't the only character with his own doppelganger. Miles Prower, or as he's better known, Tail the Fox, has his own evil clone as well. Simply known as the Tails doll, who first appeared in the Sega CD title Sonic R, this little plushie, who was also created by Dr. Eggman, is comparable to Tails much like Metal Sonic is to Sonic. The only difference between it and Tails is this strange metallic rod protruding out of its head with a small red gem on the end of it that is said to be the source of the doll's ability to move and levitate. It's unknown about the story's origins, but there have been many creepypastas written about this strange little doll, from a father buying a haunted copy of Sonic R for his son, to Tails' doll crawling out of the TV and attacking unknowing gamers. This little guy has definitely made a name for himself in the creepypasta community. Ever since the dawn of video games, there's always been the one dark question that everyone has had on their mind. Has anyone ever died playing video games? While the sad and simple answer to that is yes, the entry focuses on one of the earliest cases, if not probably the first case of video game deaths recorded. In 1980, an arcade game known as Berserk was released to the public and was considered revolutionary at its time. It was known as the game that would speak to you, and it would surprise players by speaking to them while they played. Berserk was a multi-directional shooter developed by Stern Electronics, and where you played an unknown character trekking through maze-like rooms while destroying hostile robots along the way. But there was an enemy that had been surrounded by controversy. This character is known as Otto. Don't let his cheery demeanour fool you. Evil Otto has been linked to not one, but two deaths of players almost immediately after placing high scores. Like mentioned before, not one, but two teenage boys, Jeff Daly and Peter Burkowski, died by the results of heart attacks straight after placing high scores. Some people speculate that it was Otto's doing. Others say that the two boys just got way too worked up trying to place high scores. But one thing is for certain, and that is that too much of anything can be bad for you. Giant monsters. You either love them or you hate them. Most people will be more familiar with the likes of King Kong, but he isn't king of the monsters. That title belongs to none other than Godzilla. Someone must have been such a big fan of both creepypastas and Godzilla because he even has his own story, more specifically of his title on the NES, Godzilla, Monster of Monsters, which was released in 1988. This story is well known for being very long, and I mean long enough that they had to split the story into chapters, and with an extensive collection of screenshots that accompany it, much like the previously mentioned Super Mario entry in this list. This story is of a boy who gets a copy of the game from a friend who had previously played it and finished it. But things aren't right with this playthrough, like other monsters being in the game when they simply weren't released in the game's release time, and more importantly, the introduction of another monster, simply known as Red, who may finally be Godzilla's better opponent. If you haven't read the creepypasta, I highly suggest you go do so. Definitely a key component to the gaming genre of creepypastas, Sonicexe was the first story I had personally experienced. It was an interesting story on its own, but even more intense and compelling since I actually listened to a narration of the story from the scary story narrator known as Mr. Creepypasta, whose reading and authenticity was spot on and with capturing the suspense of the story. Sonicexe is about a kid named Tom who receives a disc with Sonicexe written on it, along with a letter from his friend Kyle, who he hasn't seen in some time. The letter begs Tom to destroy the disc, but Tom ends up playing the Sonicexe. Immediately Tom realizes that everything is off and not right with the game. He chooses to play as Tails, and after going through the first level, after a while he begins to see mutilated and gutted creatures tossed and thrown around the level. Shortly after, he finds Sonic, but something is wrong with him. Sonic is evil or possessed and takes Tails to a flaming level and chases Tails, killing him shortly after. Tom plays as Knuckles and then Robotnik, who meet the same fate as Tails. He is then shown a picture of a demonic Sonic with the simple phrase, "I am God." He starts to put two and two together and wonders if his friend Kyle fell victim to Sonic.exe as well. Polybius was surrounded by controversy from the very beginning. It was a very rare arcade cabinet that was released in 1981 and developed by a strange company called Sonicexe, which is German for sense deletion. It was a puzzle shoot 'em up very similar to Tempest, but it was only released in a few suburbs of Portland, Oregon. It was such a popular game that even players would start forming lines behind it waiting for it, but it would give people strange side effects while and after playing it, like hearing a woman crying or seeing haunting, disturbing faces in the corner of their vision. People would also experience nightmares, nausea, headaches, and blackouts. There was also reports of people committing suicide after playing. A shop owner that had the cabinet in his shop claimed that strange men in suits would visit the game, not to play it, but to collect data or records or something like that, even without taking any of the money that the machine earned. Some theorists believe that the game was developing to experiment with subliminal messages or mind control. After a while, the games mysteriously disappeared, just as they showed up, without a trace. For our number one entry to this list is a very well-known creepypasta where the story revolves around a strange copy of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask for the Nintendo 64 that is haunted by the spirit of a boy named Ben. The story is told from the perspective of Alex, who got a bootleg copy of the game from an elderly man. He asks about where the man previously got it from, and the man explained that it belonged to a boy named Ben who didn't live in the area anymore. After that, Alex said goodbye to the man, and on his way, while he was leaving, the man uttered something similar to "goodbye then." But Alex had a feeling that he had said Goodbye, Ben. Once Alex got home and started to play the game, strange things started happening, like characters in the game calling him Ben instead of the name he picked, and a strange statue that resembled Alex's figure started popping around in random spots. And things kept getting weirder when Alex felt like the game was trying to communicate with him, or more specifically, it was Ben trying to communicate with him. While some gaming creepypastas have pictures as proof, this story is so popular for the fact that it not only has pictures, but it also has actual video footage of the strange events that took place in Alex's gameplay, which are easily found on YouTube if you wish to see them for yourself.